that it ebbs and flows. And maybe right now it's not growing as quickly and exponentially as it was maybe a few years ago. But I definitely think that it is becoming more mainstream. I mean, this isn't, the little fringe science that the little weirdos, talk about in secret. I mean, this is something that, is on every television channel. Just it's all over social media, of course. And it's really being accepted more by the general public as, hey, this is some interesting history. Could there be some, paranormal going on?
Things go bump in darkest night, bringing stories to the light. Guests arrive with chilling claim, whispering the ghostly name. Hear the tales for all to see. Spirited chats eternally.
Hello, everybody. How you doing on this fun Saturday night? I appreciate that you're here with me because I know the weather outside is wonderful, and there's a million other places that you could be, right? Or you could have your cell phone with you outside enjoying this weather. That technology is available nowadays, people. So you don't have to go out, get some sun, enjoy the night, and watch us, because I have an excellent guest here today with a lot of experience, and I believe that I get to take a break today and not have a lot to say and just let her just have the whole show. I'll just sit and nod and just nod and nod and nod. And no, I kid. I see we have quite a few people here. Face the Ace, Jonathan from Crossover Paranormal, Dolly from Phoenix, Angela, and probably some people lurking in the background, and that's fine. We appreciate you guys too. But without further ado, we will bring on our guest. After she gives me a thumbs up that she's ready. Awesome. Hello, Theresa. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am tired. These shows, I was just speaking earlier today that I'm thinking I might have to change my shows to a Sunday or something, so that way I could be nice and lively for everybody, if I'm ever that. But so I really appreciate you taking your Saturday night here with us. Pamela Huff says she loves you.
Hi, Pam.
You're definitely already starting to get people welcoming you on and such. Dolly. So why don't we just go ahead and start off by you introducing yourself and what first sparked your interest in the paranormal? How about that?
Okay. So I am Theresa, and I am a lifelong enthusiast, if you will, of the paranormal. A lot of people say that they have this one defining moment that really pushed them into paranormal research. I really can't find that particular instance that really pushed me into this. It just seems like everything kind of pushed me into this direction. So I was born and raised here in Appalachia, West Virginia specifically, and this is a great place for anybody who is involved in the paranormal or is interested in the paranormal to live, because not only do we have some of the top most haunted places in the world, we've also got some of the craziest UFO cases. We've got some of the strangest cryptid encounters. We're just a really weird state. So I'm really lucky to call this wonderful mountain state home. We also have a pretty large paranormal community here these days. So I really got my start, I guess. Well, it really started back when I was a very little child. My grandparents were from Beckley, West Virginia, and I lived in Charleston, West Virginia, so about an hour and a half away. And I used to spend all of my summers down in Beckley with my grandparents. My grandparents were, the good quintessential Appalachian. They had the Scotch-Irish heritage mixed with the Cherokee heritage, had lived in the mountains, worked in the coal mines their entire lives. And so when I would stay there, instead of telling me bedtime stories, they would tell me ghost stories. And,
Nice.
they had a great library of ghostly folklore that I would read when I was up there. And my grandpa, in particular, he would drive me around town saying, well, this is the house where the woman was murdered by her husband. And, when you get older, I'm going to take you there and we're going to see if we can find those ghosts. So,
Awesome. That's kind of how Dan Aykroyd got into the whole Ghostbusters and all that, is through his grandparents telling stories and things like that. Let's address this. Yeah, I turned it down a little bit. Hopefully that helped. I don't know why. On my end, I cannot hear the music at all. So let me know if it needs to go down more or not. That would be awesome. Yeah, I don't know why StreamYard doesn't play it on my end for me to hear. Hello. Um,
Keep saying it.
Angela was asking, isn't West Virginia part of the Trail of Tears?
Not directly. Most of our Cherokee had been pushed out of the area before the official Trail of Tears, but yeah, indirectly, we pushed our native populations out, and interestingly enough, a lot of our haunted locations, especially in the southern part of the state, Lake Shawnee, the Graham House, are both sites of pretty horrific massacres that had happened,
Uh,
and which helped justify pushing our native populations out of the area.
Now, those were some pretty big claims there about the paranormal and the UFOs and cryptids and such. As far as being the big state there,
Hmm.
other places like Georgia and places like that might argue with that.
Well, Georgia doesn't have Mothman now, does it? So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. You have a point there. That's why she was asking. Definitely have a point there. So
I love Georgia though. It's a beautiful state, very, very haunted and creepy in its own right. So yeah, absolutely. And it's part of the Appalachians. So the Appalachians as a whole are kind of a spooky place.
definitely don't go following whistling in the woods.
And if you hear your name,
Um,
wait in.
right, right. Uh, speaking of such things, do you think that um, the paranormal is growing and growing as the years go on, or do you think we're just noticing it more?
I definitely think that it ebbs and flows. And maybe right now it's not growing as quickly and exponentially as it was maybe a few years ago. But I definitely think that it is becoming more mainstream. I mean, this isn't, the little fringe science that the little weirdos, talk about in secret. I mean, this is something that, is on every television channel. Just it's all over social media, of course. And it's really being accepted more by the general public as, hey, this is some interesting history. Could there be some, paranormal going on? Well, maybe, but more importantly, it really speaks to the history, and especially here in West Virginia, the paranormal, whether people believe it or not, is an absolute huge tourism driver to the states. We have so many festivals that focus on the paranormal that I mean it's put small towns on the map. Um, so whether you believe in Mothman or not, I mean as long as you buy his T-shirt, it's a moot point.
Right. Let's try if we could bring that down. If it's still the music's still being too loud, I'll just turn it off. I like to have a little ambiance. The very short forest in the background will provide enough of it. Lee is part of our group. We call him Leefoot. I don't know. It posted this time, Lee. That's all I can say. Uh, been to Ripley and Fredericksburg. Mothman prophecy. Yeah, I think I found our cryptid here in Pennsylvania, and that was called the Squonk.
I
You ever
love
hear
this
of
song. It's so cute. It's so
it?
sad. He dissolves in a puddle of
Not
tears.
definitely. You're one of the few that I mentioned that to that knew what I was referring to. You do know your history, don't you? Thank you, thank you. Um, Spooky stuff. Thank you. And that's something I created myself. That music in the background. Um, but yeah, a lot of people are not aware of Squonk there. Squonky. Um,
He's having
so
his own festival now, the Squonkapalooza, so we gotta show him some love.
really,
Yeah,
I have not heard of that. I'll have to look into that. Do you think I could dress up like him and go? And
that would be awesome.
what's in Wisconsin as
Um,
far as cryptids? I'm guessing.
that's where the Hodag is, isn't it? Wisconsin, the Hodag.
Possibly. I do not know other than the mainstream cryptids. Lee is saying hello.
Hi, Lee.
Can you see the comments or
Yeah, I can see it. Most of them pop up. I can see most of them.
okay? Um, yes, she's agreeing with you. Um, maybe they were just testing your knowledge there. So a lot of teams and individuals, they don't dig very deep into the history of a place. Now it seems like you do. Um, you have a blog, right?
Yeah, Teresa's Haunted History of the Tri-State.
Okay. And what is the tri-state?
So for my purposes, I'm based out of Huntington, West Virginia. Well, I actually live in between Huntington and Charleston, but all of my teams before this have been based in Huntington. So that would be West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky is our little tri-state. We're right on there in the river, so I can be in Kentucky or Ohio within, like, from where I'm at, within 30 minutes.
We mentioned tri-state for us, for in my area, where Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. And Dolly, now I know you weren't testing her. That was just a little, and she calls you amazing.
Oh, thank
But
you.
the show's only going for 12 minutes. You're already amazing. People are loving you. I'm on the show for hours every time, and nobody says this stuff to me.
Well, I
Jeez,
love you guys. I appreciate you tuning in and watching.
would you like to buy this show for like 50 cents?
Sure.
So let's walk through the blog. First, how can we find your blog?
So the name of it, my friend's been teasing me for years that I need to actually like buy a domain name because it's on Blogspot, so it's a little difficult. It's Teresa's Haunted History of the Tri-State.blogspot.com. So unwieldy. But if you just type in Teresa's Haunted History, it comes up. I'm on all the socials too. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Not on X anymore, but all the other ones. TikTok. But the blog is kind of interesting because it started back with my first paranormal group. I somehow got thrust into the role of the historian for the group, which was fine with me because I love my what?
Thrust into greatness.
Yeah. And that was fine with me because I really enjoyed the history of it. And I was like, okay, yeah, fine, this will be great. And I could sort of use my background. I have a paralegal background, so I know my way around a courthouse like, nobody's business. I was like, okay, great, I can use those skills and this will be fun. So the very first incarnation of Teresa's Haunted History was actually just for my group. We were a new group. This was before Ghost Hunters was on TV. So the paranormal wasn't huge, especially in our area. And the information that was out there. So we were a new group, kind of looking for new places to investigate. And the internet was still, not super informative at the time. And there was really only a couple of websites where you could find information on haunted places. I don't want to say the name because they are still around and they are a great resource. But there was a certain website where it was just a state by state listing of haunted locations. And you could click your state and you could look through and find information.
I believe I know the site.
The problem was anybody could submit information to this website, and there was no way to really check it on the webmaster's behalf. So at best, you had places that you really couldn't find or weren't open to the public. I mean, somebody would be like, Papaw's barn down by the holler is haunted, and it's like, okay, where the heck is that at? Or you would have stuff that was just absolutely, positively just wrong. I mean, like horrifically, historically inaccurate. So I kind of built on that at first, and I was like, well, okay, where are some places that my team can investigate? I put it on this message board that we had, an internal message board, just a very brief summary, maybe a couple links for information and a picture. So we could, as a team, look at that and say, oh, this might be, worth a look at. And it got to the point where they're like, hey, there's a lot of other groups popping up in this area. They're asking us to help them find locations. Maybe we should share this and make it public. So I started, because I had no money for one thing, and I had no web skills for another. So I started a free website, and that's where Teresa's Haunted History first started. And the problem was that I had so much information on there, and so many people were accessing that information that I was exceeding my free bandwidth within like the first 3 or 4 days of the month. And so the rest of the month, nobody could access my site. So I was like, well, shoot, I've got to do something.
It must have drove you crazy.
It really did. And again, no money, no web building skills. So I was like, yeah, I'll try Blogspot. And that was in 2011 is when the blog started its current incarnation. And it's kind of evolved with my interest and my knowledge base. It really kind of started off just as haunted places in the tri-state, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio. Now it encompasses a broad range of Fortean phenomena. I started putting the UFO stuff, the Fortean rainfalls, the cryptids, all of the really weird stuff. And then it kind of expanded out from the tri-state to include the whole country and even different places throughout the world. And you can kind of tell like where my interests are at any given time, because that's where it gets kind of blog heavy with those topics.
So you're definitely the go-to source for many, many teams and individuals.
I hope so. I hope people are able to find my blog and use it.
So awesome. I feel like a heel for even putting it this way, but I will be honest, I have not heard of it. But I will definitely start digging, because everything that you spoke about is exactly how I feel and why I would search for your
Mhm.
site. And
And it's very
so
possible if
I,
you ever. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm sorry that I have not heard of it, but in my own defense, I don't dig far out past my nose. So, it,
I was gonna say,
but
if you've ever looked for anything in West Virginia, there's still a good chance that you have seen my blog stuff, but just not under my name. It gets ripped off all the time.
I
I'm like, please, I
understand.
don't care if you borrow my stuff. Just either one, give me credit for it, or two, correct the typos at least. I mean,
Do some proofreading. But no, I will honestly say I do believe I have came across it. I will say that because the more I think about it, the more I remember digging through stuff and quick glances and such. So it's a good possibility I have. Um, so I guess Sundays I dive deep in such things. So I know what I'll be doing over my oatmeal and coffee tomorrow. But so you've been that. I mean, that's quite the time frame for such a site.
yeah,
Um,
it's a labor of love. There are some times that I've gone months without updating it, and then there's times that I've updated it every day for a month straight. It, it always come back to it.
how you doing, Jonathan? He's a great person to be in contact with. Is Jonathan Myers from Crossover Paranormal. If you can network with him, I would highly recommend it. Um, Now you say that it goes in spurts, and I believe I understand because you know life, work, and such. I assume you're not getting paid for the blog.
No, I even took the ads down because it was getting unwieldy. AdSense was putting ads where I didn't want them to be, so I was like, I'm not getting paid enough to annoy people this badly.
No doubt. I get paid pennies on Facebook, and so I make a little jabs and jokes about it. He's from North Carolina, Angela. So I make little jokes like when I make posts about it on Facebook. I'm like, the Facebook guys will send me pennies if you comment and like bags of pennies. So
But what I
I will
haven't
say, hmm?
I was gonna start like what I haven't gotten paid in money, it's made up for because I really have through the blog been given a lot of opportunities to meet other paranormal investigators, other researchers, enthusiasts. I've been offered to get into places to investigate for free. So it really it's a trade off, and I've been very lucky to be able to have this resource that people can find me and I can connect with people all over the paranormal community.
That's definitely more than what you'll ever earn monetarily, at least in my opinion. The networking and the connections and such. How can you put a monetary value on that? So I have a list over here. You might see me reading them. You are my first person that I felt that I should try to have a list of questions for
Oh, cool.
because I did do some slight digging today, and you have an impressive resume.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you guys loved telling Facebook to bug off. I made a little post saying that it had been a few days since I was active on Facebook, so I asked the followers, the paranormal fanatics, to say bug off to Facebook. And when you know that was my most popular post for the last week or two, everybody telling Facebook Mark to bug off. So, what inspired you to? Well, you actually explained it. What inspired you to do the blog, which would have been through the start of your team asking you to do it for them. So you took my question away from me. Is there any type of phenomenon, occurrences that you really enjoy writing about over others?
Yeah, so even though the older I get, the more I realize that this whole thing is connected somehow. The UFO phenomena, the cryptid phenomena, any just kind of strange, weird stuff, I kind of feel like on some level is all connected in a way. But my first and true love is always the ghost and haunting side. I love the haunted history and how ghost stories are our history. It shows not only our, just a way to kind of bring historical events into a way where people can be like, oh, that might have been boring, but oh no, there's a ghost walking around. Well, let me listen to that story. That's kind of interesting. But it's a great psychological and sociological profile of our culture as well. So I love my favorite thing is to hear a story, even if it's just folklore, and kind of break it down and find out, okay, are there any kernels of truth to this? And a lot of times there are, and a lot of times the kernels of truth are even weirder than what the actual, ghost stories are today. Um, and kind of see like, where did that story originate from? What? how did it grow into the legend that it is today? So yeah, I love delving real deep, and I know sometimes that can be not so great for some of these haunted locations when I kind of really deep dive, and I'm like, you know what, that story. I'm not going to tell you it didn't happen. I'm just going to tell you that there is no historical documentation that it happened. Um,
It's a
so
nice
yeah,
way of saying it.
yeah, that's my favorite thing is to try to find, that historical basis for our legends today.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Trust felt that way going on the Ghost Walk in Liverpool. Yes, Angela's been to England a few times now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going over. There's a few places I'd like to investigate over there myself. And she would like to know if you use spiritual precautions to keep anything sinister from latching on.
Any spiritual precautions? Okay, so any group that I'm with, if that's something that they prefer to do, like maybe saying a prayer of protection over us as we before we start, or even as we leave a location, kind of saying, you need to stay here, any of those kind of rituals. Yeah, I'll participate in that. I totally respect that. Me on a personal level, I don't go out of my way to do any type of spiritual protections. I've been doing this for well over 25 years. The only time anything has ever really bothered me, one time I think something followed me home from a location, and that's because I told it to. I
Oh,
was
you
like,
invited it.
yeah, I invited it to come home with me. And it may have activity at my house increased in a really weird way for a couple of days. And then I guess it went back to wherever it was, or my ghosts that were already at the house ran it off, but it stopped. Um,
Uh-uh.
yeah, so
You,
I'm not necessarily a religious or spiritual person. So I don't necessarily really do anything out of the ordinary. But every once in a while, I'll sometimes when we do places that have a strong Native American background, I'll leave a tobacco offering somewhere where the local wildlife can't get into it. Um, or just kind of. I always like to be respectful of the location. Say thank you for speaking to us. Try to just be respectful of whatever is there. But yeah.
right. Now, you mentioned Native American a few times now.
Mhm.
Do you find what their beliefs and such are is fascinating? And have you dealt with any Native American spirits?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of locations that we think that we've been in contact with, mainly the Shawnee tribe. And we did a location not too long ago. I did this location with Appalachian Ghost Tours. It was a public investigation that we did. And as I was walking from the main house to a smaller outbuilding, I happened to see out of it was started out of the corner of my eye and then was almost like full on. And it was half an apparition of a black horse from the top of the horse down, but not including the head. And I couldn't see the rider except for the one leg that was hanging down. And I got the impression that that was one of the Native Americans that were killed in a battle on that site.
Yeah.
Um, so we've tried like different little things when we know that there's and not even just like Native American tribes, West Virginia, especially in our coal fields, we had so many immigrants from so many different backgrounds. So we always like to try to speak to them in their native languages if we can find that out. Just maybe just kind of play a couple lines, saying hello in the Shawnee language or the Hungarian language or Italian, whatever ethnicity was in that area. And we've gotten some
Right.
pretty good results.
So you just find a YouTube video or something to
Yeah,
play the
sometimes you can
language, or
just type in Google and you can be like, "How do you say hello in Hungarian?" And then you push a button and it plays it for you.
hello, Auntie Mama, thank you for stopping in. Um, I will suggest something. Use
Okay.
it or not. I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. I haven't used it in quite a while. Is Google Conversation or Google
Mhm,
Translate.
mhm.
We've used that successfully on our investigations to have a real time conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Where
Because
so
we've gotten stuff over the spirit box that is not in English, and I know that there's no like radio stations down here in the heart of West Virginia that's playing Vietnamese language, at 3 o'clock in the morning.
probably not. If there is, you might want to find it just for the pure entertainment of it.
Curiosity, like, what are y'all up to?
But the yeah, sorry, lost track of my thought there. Words are hard. Um, Google Translate though we used before, and actually we came up with we'd eventually use Latin just because and we used it many times and never really got any response. Till one location we did, and it started going back and forth in Latin, so no less. And actually, our one member's son's name was actually mentioned, which is his name is Sinjin. It actually said very close to that. Now, the odds of that being said is very slim, in my opinion. What's that?
That's not just in a natural just word bank. That's very specific.
Right. Enough to bother his mother, which was part of the team. She was, and there's a lot more to it that was very related to what was going on. Yeah, but so yeah, it's possible to use such things. We're actually going to try. Actually, the group doesn't even know we have these yet, so very new. We're going to try those translation earphones. We just got to
Oh,
set
that's
in.
cool.
So we got set in the mail yesterday, charging up. So maybe it'll be something. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But it'll
It's
be
worth
on
a
one of our
try.
videos. And Leefoot, the tech guy, you'll have to learn how to use them. Yeah, it definitely is a pretty a name I would have never thought of. That's for sure. Awesome name though. May the sports be with you, Scott. Well, here. That's Mr. Fedora. But anyways, all kidding aside. So that was my recommendation. So through all your researching and all that, have you noticed any particular type of building or connection that seems to be more haunted or more active than others? This I wasn't sure if he was still in the room. I'm not the tech guy. It's been a running gag of ours for 20 years now.
So, any buildings that are more haunted than others?
Is there any pattern that you could recognize or anything like?
So years ago, I used to lead ghost tours in the Huntington area of Guyandotte. And Guyandotte is the oldest section of Huntington. It was pretty much established as a city itself in 1810. So it was around before Huntington. And there's still a lot of Civil War era homes in Guyandotte that we had access to on a fairly regular basis. And at any given time, any of these homes, they were fairly active. They were really, really active, though, kind of the last weekend of October into the first weekend of November, right around the time that the skirmish or battle of Guyandotte happened. And that was like every single person that owned one of these homes was calling us saying, hey, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So we definitely see that a lot around certain anniversaries. Certain buildings will be more active, certain areas of the country will be more active. Um, like here in West Virginia, we've had so many tragedies. Of course, like in Point Pleasant, we've had the bridge fall, which was the culmination of, almost, a year and a half, 2 years of Mothman sightings, UFO sightings. Um, so yeah, West Virginia is just so haunted that it's really hard to be like, okay, yeah, this area is way more haunted than this area. This building is way more haunted than this building. I kind of have found though that it it doesn't follow what the layperson would kind of think. A building doesn't have to be old and creepy and historic to be haunted. There doesn't have to be a lot of deaths at a location to be haunted. Really, any place has the potential. If there were people who live there, who work there, who spent their lives there, and had their energy imprint in that area, there's a chance that it's haunted.
Many people are surprised when we tell them that our local mall was haunted. It's a strip mall now, but yeah,
Funny.
it's very active. Um, One thing I like to bring up every time, and I'm sure the people that watch my show on a regular basis is like, oh, here he goes, is I hooked my spirit box up to the whole mall speaker system and let it pump that white noise through the whole building. That was
That's
fun.
funny.
Probably one of the biggest spirit box sessions there's been.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it did help pick up the energy, the white noise of it. But that goes to what you were saying. It's a newer building, 80s, and so you're right. I mean, it really is. The land and such before the mall was built, it was supposed to be swampland. There's actually a lot of history on that property itself. Um, Started off as farmland. The farm the farm owner used to get so drunk and beat up on his help that he actually started paying his help to gently knock him out and put him in bed and give him a little bonus. To It was became a farmland for the state hospital grounds, which we have a pretty good sized state hospital ground here with all kinds of issues, as well as the criminally insane. Um, and they had farmland there. Who knows what happened in that time frame?
I mean, well,
Um, then after that, it became a part of offices and storage tanks and such by our local refinery. And there was a orphanage up behind on one of the hills that's close by, and they hired kids to work there. It was during the time that they could hire kids. It was, and unfortunately, there was a big fire and some lost their life.
No.
So, and then it turned on to a dump site to the mall. So, it had a lot of history on that land. Napoli's is a pizza place. Um, so yeah, and it's interesting because we had a lot of young kids that came across the spirit box and such. I think we got some ages of 7 and 9, and there's a young boy, Carlos, that was, we could tell that he could speak 1 or 2 words of English, but
Mm.
it sounded Spanish, and with a
Mhm.
name like that, I mean,
Yeah.
and we were letting people come in with us because we were doing public investigations, letting the public in, and one guy who spoke fluent Spanish, and he was having this full blown conversation with this kid over the
Oh
spirit
wow.
box. Yeah, it touched him pretty profoundly. He was like, he said, "I got to step away. This is too much for me." The guy. So a lot of stuff on that property. If you ever get in our neck of the woods, I'll take you there.
Yeah, definitely. I have to make a trip up there.
Yeah, up there.
Like
Trying to
I don't
think
even.
of where we are geographically. Yeah, I think
Everything's
it's
up
up
there to me.
there. So, yeah, we have a lot of stuff here. You speak of UFOs and linking UFOs.
Mhm.
We have the Kinzu Dam. There's a lot of reported activities of S UFOs in
Oh.
that area. So, and then another place called the Witches Circle, which we believe is very UFO oriented. I didn't
Oh, that's
realize we
cool.
had so much stuff until you sit and think about it. So
Yeah.
let's segue from the blog a little bit, unless there's anything more you'd like to add to it.
Oh, I'm good. I'm ready.
Um, what is the one investigation that you'll always, when you're just sitting back chatting like this, or amongst friends or whatever, that you'd like to bring up most?
See, I don't know. That's like asking me like, what's your favorite child? Because like all
You
of
don't
my
have one?
not really. Like all of my investigations, they all have like a little soft spot in my heart for them. I mean, I really try to connect with every location that I do. Now I've had some that were absolutely more fun and have had some crazy stuff. Um, I think one of the best, most touching EVPs I've ever got was at a private residence in outside of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So, of course, Point Pleasant is known for the Mothman, also known for being a very haunted, kind of area of high strangeness. So we
And
were
wasn't
calling
that where Eric Foreman and such is from as well?
Eric Foreman. I
The
think
'70s show?
no, not
No?
not from our area. No,
You know
um,
what I'm speaking of?
I've heard that '70s show, but yeah, I think yeah.
Go ahead.
So this was a private investigation that we were called into. And honestly, we thought that we were just dealing with a grieving sister. This lady had lost her brother, and she thought that he was haunting the house. So the whole investigation, we really didn't have a whole lot of stuff happen. We weren't getting any readings that caused concern. We weren't having any personal experiences. Nothing was pointing us in the direction like, oh man, yeah, this house is haunted. But we gave it the benefit of the doubt. We put everything into it. And as we were going over our data later that week, I was in this room and there were no men at all in the entire house. We had one gentleman with our group and he was outside talking to the owner doing something. I can't remember exactly what. So it was just us girls in this bedroom. And I asked, do you have a message for your sister? And this voice came over clear as day, like there was a living dude sitting right next to the recorder. I want to say bye. And it was in the most countrified, Point Pleasant accent that, I mean, it definitely, we're like, oh, wow, that absolutely, it wasn't, audio pareidolia or anything. Anybody who heard that
It was
heard, I want to say bye. So we didn't, tell the sister what it was or what we thought it was. We just, when we presented our case to her, we played it back for her and we're like, we just want you to listen to this. Listen to, after I say, I want to say bye, or when I say, do you have a message for your sister? And so we played it, and she just burst into tears, and she's like, that's my brother. That is absolutely my brother. So we were able to kind of give her a little peace of mind that he was okay. Um, that one was the most kind of touching investigation that I've probably done. One of the weirdest And I've told this story like so many times, and I'm still hesitant to tell it because I always try to come across as, of course, I love like the history of paranormal investigation,
Right.
but we also try to really dig into the scientific side. Follow the scientific method. Peer review, make sure that everything, our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted, everything is up to standard. Be skeptical of everything. And this
Yeah.
experience was so weird that I swear to God, it caused me to have an existential crisis about what my own personal
Really?
beliefs were. Yeah. Okay, so we were asked to investigate. It was an antique store, but the site of the antique store was in this old motel building. And this old motel building had quite the history. It was at the crossroads of, a fairly larger town. So there was a mine disaster nearby. There was an unsolved murder up the hill. Where this crossroads there were several horrific car accidents. There was a cop who was shot and killed during a traffic stop in the parking lot. The hotel itself, there were several murders and ODs because at one point it had kind of fallen into really being a place where a lot of prostitution, a lot of drug use, a lot of squatters were staying. So it had a lot of this history. And right where the motel was, like they still had a lot of the rooms in the back lot of this property that you could still
Yeah.
go into. They were used as storage. And, the antique store was built in a newer building right where the pool was. So we go into this investigation thinking, okay, we've got, yeah, Pam Beckley. I'll tell you offline exactly where it is. I don't want to mention it now because he doesn't own it anymore, and I'm not sure how the new owners are going to feel about this.
Well, we're gonna send them the clip of this video for them.
I'm sure they can find it. I've written about it. So we go into this investigation thinking, okay, we've got the land that this is on has all this weird stuff going on. Plus, we have all these antiques that anything could be a part, attached to. So we've got a lot of stuff that we're working with. But what we experienced, we weren't really prepared for. Okay, so I was out in the storage building, which was in one of the hotel rooms where a prostitute was said to be murdered. And I had a group of women out there because we thought maybe it would make her feel better if it was just women out there.
Right.
We didn't have anything. Nothing happened to us out there at all, which is in stark contrast to what happened when I was out there with a man. We had all kinds of crazy stuff happen. So I bring my group back inside, and one of our members was like real super excited. And he pulls me aside and he's like, Teresa, you've got to hear this story. The owner has this little monkey thing in the back. And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? He's got a little monkey thing in the back? And he's like, yeah, it's this little monkey cat demon creature. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? And he's like, and he's like, he called it an ovnik. And so they explained to me that the ovnik, the owner was from a Slavic background, and that the ovnik was this protective familial spirit that seemed to had followed his bloodline over when they immigrated to America. And it kind of stayed there and watched over him. And it's not necessarily like a demon. It's more like a house spirit or a brownie or something of that nature. But it kind of looked like a cross between a black cat and like a capuchin monkey or something. And so I'm like bewildered at this point because apparently a couple of people had seen it while I was out in the hotel building. So I was like, okay. So everybody else gathered in the main part of the store, and the owner was telling a story about this haunted hat that he had been given. And while they were doing that, I went into the back part where this thing had been seen. And so I'm sitting on the couch, and there's an antique couch back there. And a couple of times I kind of felt like maybe something had jumped up on the back of the couch behind me. And even a couple of times I thought that, maybe I'd seen something out of the corner of my eye, but nothing that was like, oh yeah, that's definitely it. And so the owner tells his story, finishes up in the other room, and he comes into where I'm at, and he's like, so have you seen my ovnik yet? And I'm like, no, I don't think I have. I maybe felt something, but I don't think that it was the ovnik. And he's like, well, if you want to see it, it's right there. And I'm like, so I walk over to where he's pointing, and he's pointing back towards the office. And in the office, he had this big Rubbermaid tote. It was just filled with, stuff that was, getting ready to go out or be put away. And I'm looking at this tote, and I swear I see what looks like a little black cat peeking out of it. And I have a black cat at home, so this looked exactly like it. I could see its little yellow eyes and its little pointy ears and even the little white teeth. And I saw it blink, and I was like, you got a cat hidden back there. And so we're walking closer and closer to it, and I see this thing staring at me. And we get almost right up to it, and he kind of reaches towards it. And I don't know how to describe it, but this thing like swooped away, like it just like swooped. And so we start tearing stuff out of that tote, like where'd it go? And he's like, do you believe me now? And I'm like, what was that? And he's like, well, why didn't you take a picture of it? And I'm like, dude, if I could even find my camera, I wouldn't have been able to operate it. Like now I know why people don't take pictures of UFOs and Bigfoot and stuff. My mind was so busy trying to make sense of what I was seeing that nothing else existed in this world.
Do you
And
think it would have actually came across in a photo?
I don't know. It would have been interesting if it would have, but I don't know. And the only reason that I
'Cause
don't think that I'm completely crazy is that so many people, not even that night, but other people from other groups that I really trust and respect their opinion, that they're like, oh my God, I saw it too.
hmm, I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, I've heard of house spirits and such, but
Mhm.
um, never heard of that. And they're saying that their phones were possessed and things followed them home and such. And
That's a crazy location. Unfortunately, the owner sold it and moved on. Um, Hopefully, the new owners will be open to having groups come in at some point. But
you never know. So all it takes
yeah,
is one person or one group to really ruin things,
yeah,
unfortunately.
we've run into that over the years too. There's places that you just can't get into because one group came in and
And it's
still
a shame.
we're still just close enough to the Bible Belt where a lot of people just really don't want that reputation. Especially, if it's a business or something that's making money on its own accord, yeah, they want nothing to do with that. But we have seen in the past couple of years there are a lot of places that are kind of embracing that spooky side. And like I said, the group that I work with, Appalachian Ghost Tours, we hold a lot of investigations at these historic places in order to bring funding to save these locations and to bring awareness to these locations. Because we might be able to reel them in with the ghost stories, and they might look around if it's a museum or historical location and be like, hey, this place is kind of cool. I'm gonna bring my kids here. I'm gonna bring my grandparents here.
And like you mentioned earlier, a lot of places are earning from being known as spiritual places. Look at Bobby Mackey's and places
Yeah.
like that earn how much money? I mean, and oh yeah, there's all kinds of cameras and things out there. Just be careful that you don't get scammed because it's very easy to do. Um, you know what I mean? But yeah, there's so much fake equipment out there as well,
Yeah,
especially phone apps.
I don't have like a magical camera, but I do have what's called the Phasm camera, and it's like a full spectrum UV and all that IR camera stuff. Unfortunately, I've never caught anything too crazy on it, but
When is it to the point that the equipment is too advanced, like you're saying? I mean,
yeah, that's a good
it
question.
gets, it gets, yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know. See, I'm not super techie. I'm kind of actually old school. I love the new gadgets. I love to test out the new gadgets and to try them out and play around with them. But honestly, I think some of our older school methods are where you're going to get the best data from and stuff that's less likely to be challenged by science. Like, I love spirit boxes. We've had some crazy accurate stuff come across them, but you can never
Mhm.
really be 100% sure. Is it just a coincidence that certain phrases came over the radio waves? Um,
Right.
yeah, and a lot of I always tell people that before you spend a ton of money on paranormal investigation equipment, a couple of tips is try not to buy anything that's marketed just for paranormal investigators, because
That's,
all of this is just based on other technology. And it's all based on the assumption that ghosts are made up of something that we can measure, whether that be some sort of energy fluctuation or something.
right.
So, really kind of know what your equipment is designed to measure, and see if maybe there's an alternative that's has real world applications that's going to be like 30% cheaper than the ones that have the little sticker that says ghost hunter meter on it.
Once once you type in ghost hunter or paranormal investigations or anything, you're adding 20% to your cart.
Yeah.
Leaffoot, I don't know what you mean feedback, Leaffoot. I got lots of feedback. Are you saying my mic is causing feedback? Come on, you're the tech guy. Come on. So, my answers have been similar to yours, other than I've always said, if you're starting into this field, start simple.
Yeah.
Your phone handles a lot of stuff. Just keep in mind, like video cameras, voice recorders, and such. If you start getting into EMF detectors and such, your phone will affect them. And I told them, you don't have to go out and spend $500 to do your first investigation. See if you even like doing it to begin with. But keep things simple is
I'm
my
gonna turn that
my
on.
view.
Okay. got dark in my
Sure.
living room.
I see you're trying to get more light.
Yeah.
No, it's the
The sun
dark
was out
and
on Sunday.
mysterious. Now there's mic feedback. Yeah, I'm trying a different room than what I'm normally in, and it seems you heard that no problem, didn't you, Leefoot? Not the tech guy again. Uh, I'm in a different room than I normally am, and I don't know if it's going to be a room I'll stay in or not. Good night, Jonathan. I hope you have a wonderful night. Tell Pops I said hello. Really, really nice guy. Very. If you want to talk about paranormal unity, he's the guy to talk to. You can be seen now. But it sounds like a very interesting spot, nonetheless. Though that's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and it doesn't sound like there's been many areas that scared you too much.
That's one thing that I'm very lucky that I don't scare easily. I get startled easily. But
Fair enough.
I don't have that fight or flight. I have the freeze response. So by the time that I like unfreeze, I've usually worked out what's startled me and I'm okay.
So if we see you frozen in like a deer in headlights, we know something's going on. Oh, wouldn't that have been nice if that would have froze right there?
I get a thumbnail for everything.
Well, yeah, I'm sure if your friends are similar to mine, you would have been posted all over the place. So now you were talking about uh, being in close to the Bible Belt and such, and um, I believe there's a lot of people in religion starting to lean towards the paranormal side of things as well. Though there's a lot of people that are not.
Mhm.
We had a little paranormal conference here at one point ourselves, and we found out it was at a local park, and we found out that the night before there was several church groups praying over the grounds. So
Aw.
it was like, well, thank you. We like prayers too. So
Yeah.
we understand that whole living close to religious aspects and such. But I mean, it's spoken of in the Bible and such.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're always going to have those who think that there's no such thing as ghosts. It's all demons because the whole you'll rise during the coming and all that stuff. So it can't be a ghost. It has to be a demon. But we're kind of unique in this part of Appalachia that we have a lot of people who have been able to marry that Christian perspective with a more supernatural perspective. West Virginia, you guys probably heard this before. The concept of granny witches. Everybody's got somebody in their family that was a granny witch, somebody that knew a little too much about which herbs and plants could be used for healing, or
Is
the
that
ones who a little, kind of knew things before that they happened. And if the granny told you don't go out that day, you do not go out that day.
is
So
that kind of like a kitchen witch?
yeah, definitely. That kitchen witches are modern granny witches. They know how to heal. They know what herbs are best for what ailments. And like I said, a lot of them, you listen to them. If they told you not to do something, you did not do it.
Right, right. That's amazing to me because that's the way people lived for many decades and
Oh, yeah.
survived. And nowadays, our modern medicine and such. And then you say like things like they knew when something was going to go on. That's just like in other countries. It surprised me that they can't smell rain.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean you can't smell rain? I smell it coming a mile away. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that must be that granny witch line because, yeah, I could always tell you if it was a sunny, beautiful day, I'd be like, yep, it's getting ready to rain.
I don't know anything other than about that. Anything to do with ghosts. Research the word pharma. Well, it's all about time. We knew. We knew. Uh, there's a lot of references in the Bible and such. The Bible loves to go back and forth on you're not supposed to do this, but on the same token, this is okay. But then if you do this, and that, it's that's why we have somebody that is very well knowledge and such, and as we call him our spiritual advisor. And yes, have here anyways. I can say feel free to ask on my show, and I'm sure I have not had a guest yet that doesn't welcome questions. So yeah, never hesitate to ask a question here. Um, except Leefoot, he's not allowed to ask questions. So, um, speaking of all that, and not about questions and Bibles and all that, you had mentioned that there is something that you and your current group are putting together. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I left my previous research team of almost 5 years now, um,
Mm,
another group in my area, West Virginia Unseen, sort of adopted me as one of their own. And West Virginia Unseen has been working with Appalachian Ghost Tours. So I've gotten to work with Appalachian Ghost Tours, really get to know everybody. Excellent group of people. They are
nice.
putting on a awesome, fantastic, huge Paracon at the Haunted and Historic Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Is going to be June 21st. Lake Shawnee is located down at the southern part of West Virginia. It's kind of close to Bluefield. Bluefield is probably the biggest big city that it's close to. But we've got a ton of vendors. There's going to be vendors selling all kinds of spooky wares. We have speakers set up. I'm going to be one of the speakers. We also
Nice.
have Linda Sigmund. She's one of the original Mothman witnesses. Her story was not originally in the John Keel books because as a teenager, her parents did not allow her to speak with John Keel. So her story started coming out later. And so now she's really working um, the Mothman Festival, all the spooky circuits. So we're really lucky to have her. We've got some big name TikTok investigators. There's all sorts of great speakers. We're gonna have a vendor area. It's free to visit the vendor area, so you can come in and do all your spooky shopping. And then if you want to do, there's gonna be a ghost hunt later in the evening. If you want to see the speakers, do all the fun stuff, tickets are only $25. So it's gonna be a huge
At
deal.
all. And it sounds pretty sizable. And at that price, it sounds like a spooky good deal.
Lake Shawnee
Feel
is one of
free
those
to
places.
go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Lake Shawnee is one of those places that I mean, you keep seeing like on TV pop up as oh, this is one of the most haunted places in America, and it does have some spooky history. So we're excited to share the ghost stories and maybe a little bit of the real history behind it as well. But get people in to really meet people from the UFO, cryptid, and paranormal investigation fields and show them a really good time.
Awesome. I was going to say, feel free to share links on the Facebook page. If you send me links, I'll share them myself. That's for sure. For ticket locations or whatnot, or whatever you want to do. I'd be happy to help push it out where I can. Do you have anybody on there?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think there's some like I said, I'm gonna turn my cam off for just a minute because I've got to find my cord.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
I could hear you. Yes.
Okay.
Um, I don't know the last time that I was in West Virginia and in similar areas. So, and you said that's in June.
Yeah, June 21st.
Feedback from
So,
me again. Sorry, guys. I'm on a laptop. Send me your pennies and maybe I could afford a better mic. June 21st. I'll have to check and see what I could do. You never know. Maybe I will be there. I need to start branching off and going to such more stuff like that. I'm very sheltered,
and that's one thing
but
that West Virginia does not lack. We have so many paracons. A lot of them aren't necessarily ghost related. Most of them celebrate our creatures, our cryptids, and our UFO creatures. But this is going to be a big one.
about the only thing that I would say that I've seen that would be considered cryptid of some sort would be some fireflies that were not green, but they're actually red.
Oh, that's weird.
It was weird. The person I was with said it was part of the Native Americans in our area. I believe they were fairies and such, or something
Mm-hmm.
along those lines. He said, and fae, and it was very weird because we were in a very old part of a cemetery. So old they don't even really keep up with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were up there, kind of doing a couple things, and I kept seeing them out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, what the heck is that? And then finally it was like I finally had to say something. And he stopped and he asked me again, and I said yeah. And he's fluent in Seneca, which is their local Native American area. And he said, okay, it's time for us to leave. I was like, oh, okay, I'll take your word for it. So is that to me or for you?
I'll be there. So that must be to you. Yeah, we've got an investigation coming up next week at the Pocahontas Fuel Company buildings in Pocahontas, Virginia, which is just right across the state line. We did a
Yeah.
private there last week, and it was pretty crazy. We were able to confirm the stories about a man being murdered in the hallway, and we absolutely had some data that showed that he was probably still there, along with a local doctor that may still be there as well.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, me and Lee has talked about this. He said he's seen a UFO in daylight hours, no mistaken what he saw.
Oh wow.
Now, I probably won't say it 100% accurate, but he said it's similar to like a cigar shape, but it was bright metallic in color. And I believe he said there wasn't. In fact, I think our area had chief corn planter. Yeah, that would be the Warren, Pennsylvania area. Kinzu, uh, city of the town of Kinzu, I believe, is the town that they flooded with the dam, Kinzu Dam. Do you know who Johnny Cash is?
Mhm.
He sung about this area
Oh,
with
okay, cool.
this song is as long as the grass shall grow. That's all about like
I didn't
five
know
to 10
that.
miles down the. It's
Oh,
about 10 miles down the road from where I'm at. So I'm sorry, my mind's been in like 50 different places right now. It
I
just
feel
got
that.
fractured everywhere. But I noticed that you mentioned a few different times about fays. Well, maybe you didn't use the word fay, but house spirits and similar things along those lines. Are you a firm believer in such entities?
Maybe 5 years ago, I probably would have said no. I wasn't a firm believer. I think
Or
now
didn't?
I think I'm a little bit more open to that phenomena because I've seen and experienced things that I don't have an explanation for,
Mm,
and that the concept of fae. I mean, it seems like every culture across the board has some sort of little creatures that would fall into what that category we would consider some type of fae. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely am definitely more open to it. Um, I think everybody has had what we call the Doppler effect, the disappearing objects, where you put something down and you go back to get it and it's not there, and sometimes you'll find it in a really weird spot, or sometimes it'll be right where you just looked. And I
That's
always kind
just
of think that
Dobby.
that's yeah, or a little house elf. Yeah, I always think that that's probably kind of Fey related. I mean, but
I've
yeah,
always I've always felt that there's more house spirits and such as well.
yeah,
Um, I believe in like gnomes and that kind of stuff. I didn't know anything about the fireflies with the lights and such
hmm
until that particular night. Um, so from first-hand experience, I guess I have to believe it now, right? Uh, so yeah, forgive me. It's been a long day. And that's another reason why I try to have a list of questions here. Actually, Lee put recommended last time that I should have a list. And so, what type of advice would you offer to anybody starting off into this?
So I would suggest anybody just getting started in this to either find a group or find a mentor. Don't go into it completely blind just yet. I mean, you can always go and do your own thing later on, but try to find trusted people who share your not even really share your same perspective, but at least kind of have the same goals in mind, to help you kind of point you in the right direction of certain equipment that might be better than others, kind of take you out to some locations, let you have a feel for this. And this is kind of I've always been kind of on the fence about like pay to play locations where you pay a fee to go investigate. And even like public investigations, I've always kind of shied away from a lot in the past because you're in there with a bunch of people you don't really know, and it's not as controlled as a private is. But these are great ways to kind of get your foot in the door, to meet other enthusiasts, and to kind of get a taste of do I really want to spend hundreds of dollars and every waking minute of my life, going over data and recordings and sitting there watching videos of a blank room. Um, so definitely, I would suggest finding somebody to work with at first, get your foot in the door. I also suggest absolutely doing your homework before you buy anything, especially big purchases. A lot of people can pretty effectively ghost hunt with just the stuff that they already own. I mean, a lot of people own a nice camera. A lot of people have voice recorders that they used in school or whatever, flashlights, all that stuff.
Our
And
phones are getting top line cameras and voice recorders. I mean, our phones could zoom into the moon nowadays.
yeah, and
So,
definitely just keep an open mind. You're never going to know everything there is to know in this field. This field is so multifaceted. So just keep learning. Read books, watch the TV shows. Some of the TV investigators are examples of what not to do, but it's a good way to kind of get a feel for okay, this is probably not something I should do. just always keep an open mind and keep learning.
I agree with everything you said. The only thing I would add is I think to start, depending on how serious you're starting off, is maybe just grab a couple friends and use your phones to go to the cemetery or something, your friend's home or something, a couple times. If that feels like something you want to get to further after that, then go along the steps that you were suggesting. Because all beautiful or all wonderful tips and advice and but have you have either of you been investigating in the woods and had a bear problem? People
Um,
mistake me for a bear. Bigfoot. That's my problem. Leaffoot wants to shoot me.
okay, so we weren't even in the woods. This was in downtown Hinton about, oh my God, probably 10, 15 years ago. And we were driving to our investigation, which was in downtown Hinton, West Virginia. And as we're driving by, because we all have our walkie talkies, that's how we're talking. And we're like, do you see that? And DNR is carrying out a baby black bear out of somebody's backyard and putting it in the back of a truck. But no, I've never run into anything in the woods like face on like that. This is kind of controversial, but a couple of times I have been with teams that when we do certain locations, now these people are fully licensed and trained to carry a pew pew with them. I've worked with law enforcement, security officers, and stuff like that.
Mm.
So if you're going to investigate in the woods at night, yeah, maybe consider just normal precautions. But no, I've never been like out investigating in a freaking bear. Um, Raccoons, on the other hand, yeah, raccoons all the time.
Yeah, or even angry squirrels or something. But speaking of having something with you, me and my significant other was looking at during the day. We were looking at a patch of woods that we were going to investigate later on in the night and such, or a couple days later or something. And I would have kept that.
Oh, that's
um,
me.
and we didn't bring nothing with us for protection because we were thinking daytime. It wasn't that far from the main road and such, and we ended up we were only there for about 5 minutes, and things were just not right. We could feel the air was thicker. We were hearing like a scream off in the distance and such, and every time we'd talk, we'd hear it. Every time we tried to listen, it would go quiet. And we started paying attention. No animal noises, no bird noises, no nothing. And
Oh,
this whatever it was starting to come a little closer. We could hear it get louder. And so I told my better half, I said, look, we have nothing with us to protect us. It's time we go before we find whatever this is. So I don't believe it was a bear. I don't know what it was, but we didn't stick around to find out.
well,
Sounds like
here in West Virginia, we've got so much wildlife, and some of it, I mean, it sounds like a woman screaming in pain when it starts making noises. And even, a cow bellowing a couple fields over can be terrifying at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
no
So,
doubt. I could understand that for sure. When
yeah,
I say scream, you're 100% right because the bobcat scream is very wicked if you don't
yeah,
know what it is.
it sounds
Um,
like a woman being murdered.
right, yeah. I will say that my saying scream is not quite accurate description. It almost to the point where it was like a more drawn out whoop, and it almost sounded like there might have been two of whatever going back and forth, kind of locating each
Mhm.
other.
Oh,
And
that's
we
interesting.
just might be happen to get caught in the middle of whatever it was, and we figured, yeah, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
How you doing, Denny? I hope you're doing well. He is a big fan of the Salty Cracker. That's a YouTube channel. uh, Coyotes have been an issue for me, so good to have protection when in the woods at night. Yes. Oh, yeah. You're right. Just trust it. I understand, and wildlife. There's a lot of wildlife that even crows can make like sounds of baby crying and such.
I
Um,
didn't realize how many birds actually can mimic human speech. Um,
there's
Yeah, I was in a cemetery. This was in the middle of the day, and I kept hearing somebody say something. It was like the same word just like over and over again, and it was like almost like robotic. I'm like, where the heck is that? And it was like a crow or blackbird, something in the Corbin family, in a tree beside of me. And I'm like, that is the creepiest. That's scarier than any ghost that I've ever maybe encountered.
because it's so real.
Yeah, it,
uh,
it was crazy.
where I'm at, I'm surrounded by woods and such. I'll sit in my bedroom with the window open during the summer, warmer weathers, and I'll just listen to the coyotes and such. So yeah, I'm there's a lot of noises I'm familiar with. Foxes especially sound like a baby. Yeah, it's crazy that all the different animals and such that
Maybe,
and maybe it was
maybe,
made by
maybe.
all these different animals. Now think about speaking of history and such. Think about all these people that wasn't aware of all these different animals and they're living in the woods and such, cabins and such. Um, but maybe I'm not giving them enough credit because they don't have cell phones and all that like we do now. So they're probably more aware of what was in the woods than we'll ever be. You know what I mean? So, um, you said that you are part of a team now,
Mhm.
and I'm aware of that because you brought them up, and they've been on uh, our Facebook page several times, and I believe I might have even seen them on the YouTube channel saying hi. And I don't know if the Appalachian Trails is that the right
I'll talk to
name
them
for them.
before.
I don't know if I've seen them on the page. If I have, I'm sorry. Um, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your roles on that team.
So I don't really have much of a role yet. I just joined not too long ago. It's my past team,
I'm going to speak up because last time I thought it was just me, but your audio dropped.
Okay, I'll pull it closer. um, so I guess technically just lead investigator. Um, I investigate. I don't do anything real super special with this new group. Um,
Those are
I kind
not
of,
that important.
yeah, I kind of like in some cases, like the structure of a group, it's like, okay, this person is in charge of this person is in charge of this. But in an ideal world, I want every single team member to be able to do every single role kind of
Mm,
seamlessly in case, like, because the first group I was with, I was in charge of a lot of interviewing witnesses and doing the historical research. And I love that. That was great. But it didn't allow me to really get into the tech side as much as I wanted to because, while I was busy doing the interviews and talking to the witnesses, then the tech team was setting up the cameras. And so when it came to the point where I needed to help, I'm like, what do I do? Where do I stick this thing at? And so I had to, kind of learn that. And I'm still not super comfortable with, doing stuff like running cameras. And I mean, I'm pretty comfortable telling people where they should be pointed at, but not actually doing the techie part of it.
telling people where to go.
And I'm like, that should be pointed this way.
Now, do you believe that teams should have a do you believe they should have spiritual advisors, religious figures? Do you believe they should have psychics? Do you believe they should have the new guy? Um,
I mean, if that works for them, every team is its own dynamic. I think
mm,
more important than anything is that, the team is like a family. I mean, because some of these situations, they are inherently, can be inherently dangerous. And,
okay.
if you don't have people that you trust and, have your back and can see, if you're struggling mentally, physically, spiritually with something and be able to pull you out of that situation, I think that's extremely important. But as for roles on teams, um, yeah, and it depends on what kind of population you work with and what your particular goals as a team are. The past couple of teams that I was with, we had to stop doing residential. Nice to meet you, Angela. Good night. Um,
Hi, Angela.
we stopped doing residential cases because it just got too dangerous, really. Especially in our area, we'd go to these cases and there would be you know drug paraphernalia right there out in the open for God and man to see. Um, and so a lot of these cases, especially public cases, we don't maybe necessarily need a spiritual advisor unless the team is very spiritual, and that's their dynamic. As for psychics, my last team we did have a psychic, and we just used her data as one piece of the puzzle, like everything else. It wasn't all about what she said. It was okay. Let's use this as another tool. What can you provide for us? How can we back it up with data, with historical research? How can we make this all tie in? Um, so yeah, whatever works for the team works for them. Every team's going to be different.
I agree. I fully agree. Another thing I'd like to add to that is as far as teams being a family and such and knowing about the dangers and such, I'd also add that once teams have been together a little bit, they do grow that bond, that familyness. Um, they'll see if you're too tired, too emotional, too
Yeah.
physical, or whatever the situation may be. That's not always paranormal related. That could open you up to some bad situations in a group
Definitely.
or in an investigation. I'd like to add that as well.
Of course, you just don't want to sit there for like 12 hours on a location in the dark, sit with people you don't like. You gotta like
Oh,
each
yeah.
other to a point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not getting paid for it or anything. It does make it harder to do. Bless you. Um, that's like that's why with our group we try to have at least a family picnic once a year to get everybody and their families together and have a little
Yeah.
cookout. So the family knows that we're not just some weird people running around in the woods being chased by bears. But so I feel that we're getting to the point of the conversation that I'd like to ask you if there's anything you'd like to bring up. What's the future hold for you and such, and then we'll probably progress to closing it up.
All right. So I already brought up a Haunt Fest at Shawnee. That's our June 21st event. A couple other events that we'll be at, like Pam said, on if anybody's in the Pocahontas, Virginia area, on this next coming weekend, May 17th, 6 to midnight, we have a public investigation of the Pocahontas Fuel Company office buildings. It's $20 a person. We provide equipment for you. You can bring your own equipment, and we'll even feed you. It's a great, great event.
You
May
cooking?
30th. What?
You cooking?
I'm not personally cooking. I'm bringing some fixins. Like I'll bring some side dishes. I don't cook. But oh my gosh, if you ever come to Appalachian Ghost Tours event, they know how to cook. The food is always excellent. I mean that's part of the
Really?
draw. You come for dinner and then hang out for the ghost. If anybody's in Nitro, West Virginia, coming up May 31st, there's a little kind of smaller paracon they're having in Nitro called Project Odd. And there's going to be panel speakers. I'm not exactly sure all what's going on, but lots of vendors and some speakers at that. And that'll cover all the normal ghosty stuff. The ghost. We'll have some Bigfoot guys there, some UFO specialists talking about their stuff. Me personally, I'm kind of at a crossroads right now. I'm trying to finish up a book, which God knows when that's actually going to come out. I was hoping it would be done by June, but I don't know. Not quite sure. Um, but yeah, until then, I'm really enjoying my new team, hanging out, getting to know them really well. We've been friends like for a long time. I've known them for several years before I joined, so that's been great and really getting
I
to
see
help
they have a
out.
lot of praise for you.
Well, I really appreciate them. They're an awesome group of people,
Awesome, awesome.
and they do
And I
a lot
must,
this area.
yeah, it sounds like you guys got a lot going on. A lot more than a lot of teams do. A lot of teams seem to and that's fine. But they concentrate on the one aspect of investigations, and they kind of leave it at that, which is
Mhm.
fine. Like you said earlier, whatever fits your team works. But you guys do seem like you have quite a bit of a busy schedule through the year.
Yeah, it's been busy. I don't think there's been a month that's gone by, probably in the past 5 years, that I haven't been at a location somewhere.
So COVID did not slow you guys down.
Not really. My old group, Spectral Research and Investigation, actually started during COVID,
Oh wow.
and that was because the founder, who I partnered up with, was a teacher, so he had a lot of time off, and yeah,
Yeah,
so
right.
and we didn't go to a lot of like public events and stuff during this time. It was more
Mm.
like cemeteries and parks and the TNT area outside Point Pleasant, things to kind of get started with, but not be around a lot of people.
A lot of teams got severely damaged
Yeah.
through COVID. I wouldn't say ours did, but it definitely slowed us down to quite a bit. Say
Yeah.
90% slowed down. We're now
Yeah.
getting back geared up and starting to get on the right track. And I feel a lot of teams face the same thing. I'm glad it didn't for your end. But I think it, like you said, it actually brought a lot of brand new teams out.
hmm And it was
So
during a time where people were spending more time at home and things were a little bit quieter. And I think a lot of people started to notice more paranormal activity around them in some ways. Because before this, I was kind of getting discouraged that, I was investigating and I wasn't really, coming across a whole lot of activity. And then it
mm,
seemed like after this, we had one of those, worldwide spiritual awakenings. And we kept getting more and more reports come in after COVID.
yeah.
That was West Virginia Unseen. They're watching. Hey guys.
Uh, I'm sorry. I heard you hear certain keywords in the background and you kind of get a little distracted. And don't think I won't take you up on that invitation there. Um, Having a great team up. I was here, and my better half must be on the phone. We have the Allegheny River that flows in our area, Kinzu Dam and such. Um, and she just said something about a water rescue. So let's pray that that's all ends well. Oh, you're listening to me? um, they're down by some family. The rescue is down by some of the family's home.
Yeah, Ree, I
Yeah,
think that I agree
go
with
ahead.
that.
That
And it's
the veil.
and it feels like the same thing like after the Civil War, after World War I, when we had all these deaths happen, there was a huge rise in spiritualism as a movement after that. And so I think that yeah, the veil got thin, but then there was also all these people who were absolutely desperate to make sense of what was going on in the world, and they were turning to that more supernatural, spiritual side.
Yeah, Leaffoot. I'm sure they probably did. Glade Township, 100% yes. Um, yeah, and that's the other thing. Is the time of year and all that kind of the veil, and but the whole COVID, it was I kind of felt bad for people because, like you said, they're in their home, they're in their home a lot more, and they are hearing things and noticing things and feeling things that normally they're too tired to feel or just not around, and then all of a sudden they have this activity, and then they're afraid to have people come in to help them because So I was feeling kind of bad for people on that aspect because who do you gonna reach out to?
Hmm.
So, but I would like to extend an invitation back to the show.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
absolutely. Maybe I can get
hopefully you had some fun.
the rest of the team on here with me.
I was gonna say I was surprised that they didn't jump on as well. I guess I didn't say. Generally, I say you're welcome. The whoever I'm saying asking to be part of the show, and I say if anybody in the team wants to come along, share the link that I did. But um, so maybe next time we'll have you and 2 or 3 or 10 other people. Who you gonna call? Yeah, I almost said that, Lee, but you're gonna call Waha. Uh, our original name, our original name was gonna be Warren Area Haunting Association. So when people say who you gonna call Waha. But the other member said, no, that doesn't sound professional enough. So we'll stick with Wasp. I'm not camera ready. You got Warner Girl, no doubt. Uh, I got a face for radio, so if I could do it, you could do it. But yes, you're welcome to come back. Um, please send me the information or links to these events. I'll be happy to show and share what I can. As far as the on scene there, you never know. The invitation was there. I might get a wild weekend where me and Leefoot might just say, "Let's go hang out." You guys like bar crawls?
I'm
Like,
not big on the bar crawls, but I'm sure we can show you a good time. I live absolutely like actually less than a block away from a Honda bar. I'm surprised we haven't heard
oh,
anything
really?
from there. Yeah,
Go
the
there
world
to
famous empty glass.
the empty glass. I'll have to look into that.
Right.
So we'll go there to drink spirits and chase spirits.
And sometimes see a drag show.
Hey, I've been known to I don't know. I've been known to do something. And awesome, cool. Sounds like I got a lot of visitation to be doing here soon.
Yeah,
Good thing you
if y'all come to West Virginia, we will show you a good time. We'll show you all the sights.
bar crawls. You found your phone, and vice versa. You come up here in October. I always host a Halloween themed bar crawl for
Nice.
charity. We do it for we collect food to donate to the local food bank. So y'all come up October, go bar hopping with us down the avenue. But um, now since I'm getting silly, I will bid you a fair adieu and thank you for being on the show. It was a lot of fun, and we'll stay in contact, and hey, you got me. You know how to cook a good brisket, but your audio cut back down. But much appreciated, and I will reach out to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll stay in contact with you. Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. And it's actually on the grill now. Nice. As soon as I shut this camera down, I'm on my way. What a wonderful guest and wonderful crowd, by the way. You guys really appreciate the interaction. Sorry if I got a little scattered brain at the end of this. I worked all day, come home, eat dinner, jump on this, and it's been a rough couple weeks. But that's my problem, not your guys's. So I really appreciate you guys coming along on this journey, learning about Theresa. I feel like I barely touched the surface of her story. She's so knowledgeable from what I've spoke with her. I got a lot of reading. Thank you. I got a lot of reading and catching up tomorrow on her stuff. Uh, I know we have somebody lined up. She, I am definitely impressed. She is. Um, that's for sure. And she has a wonderful group of friends. I appreciate that. There is another group that is I got to cement the details of our next show called Family Paranormal. I got to reach out to them and get the dates figured out. Out of that, I'm looking for more groups to be on. If anybody wants to be part of this and want to have a conversation like we did tonight, reach out to me. We'll figure out details on when you're available. Um, I really appreciate it. So instead of me just babbling on, you have a wonderful Saturday night and look forward to seeing you soon. As always, stay spooky, my friends.
Well, hey everybody, thanks for stopping down and appreciate the visit. Now get the hell off of my porch. We'll see you the next time. Come on back.